The podcast that you're about to listen to may cause some listeners to stop and think and take stock of their surroundings and then maybe think again before making their final conclusion.
Well, hey there, happy innovators. How are you all doing today? I hope you're doing good. I'm doing pretty good. I'm just sitting here in my studio looking out the window, and it's early in the morning, and the seasons are starting to change now, so we're going into spring, and the snow is melting, and it's raining right now rather than snowing where I'm at. And just sitting here. And it got me to thinking, about that idea of how it feels like when you're inside and it's warm and it's comfortable, but outside the weather is really cold and formidable. And, it's like this primal sense of comfort or something, it's deeper than just feeling good or liking it. It's like a different kind of feeling. It's not just cozy, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but it's just how I think. There's probably something in our brains that really kind of gets tapped into when we're sitting like that and we're looking outside, and I don't know, I don't want to be out there. I'm glad I'm right where I'm at, and it's amazing, or maybe even a miracle, that I could be sitting here in this comfortable, warm space, and it's quiet. And right outside that window, it's just a torrential downpour, and the wind is blowing, and the snow is melting, and it's just one of those things. I don't know. Maybe it sounds strange, but that's just how my brain works sometimes. I made a podcast last week, and just kind of off the cuff. I just I had time. And I had the inclination to make a podcast, so I did, and it was okay as I was going along. But later on that day, when I was listening to what I had done, I kind of came to the conclusion that it was horrible. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because my spirit, while I was doing my podcast last week, was kind of like not good. My attitude was negative. The subject matter was negative. I sounded bitter. And, I was kind of shocked a little bit listening to myself, and coming to the realization that, I sounded like a malcontent, and I had no idea, while I was doing the podcast, that I sounded that way, and it bothered me. It really bothered me, and got me to thinking, what's up, right? I mean, obviously, I didn't release a podcast last week because it was awful, and I put in all the work. I did everything, and I guess it gets easier as time goes by. Having done this podcast for almost 10 years now, it gets easier to omit a podcast, even though I do all the work and everything. It's kind of not that big of a deal. I'm used to doing the work, so if I wind up scrapping it, it's no big deal. But it bothered me, though. It bothered me this time because, I've certainly had podcasts in the past that were similar, they were negative or whatever, and I wound up not releasing them. But it's not really a question of the podcast. It's a question of my disposition, and that bothered me. And I'm in touch with my feelings or whatever enough to notice that, recognize that, and then think about it, right? So why is that? What's up with me lately? Is it because of world events and all that kind of stuff? Maybe that's part of it. I would imagine that's part of it. But is it like the fact that I'm grieving the loss of people that I loved? Okay, that's definitely part of it. It's almost like sometimes when I think about it, okay, it's almost like a chunk of my spirit has died. And I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but when I'm speaking to you in these podcasts, okay, that whole idea of like talking like this and doing like this, it comes from a spirit of joy. Like you have to have a spirit of joy in order to really do something like this, a creative endeavor like this, to the best that it can be. It's kind of hard to explain. Maybe I'm confusing you, or maybe you understand what I mean, but it's like, regardless of the subject matter or whatever I'm talking about, the whole idea comes from this spirit of happiness or joy. That's where you start from, and then you start talking about something. So I'm in this place, I guess, or at least I was last week, where it was like, why was I so bitter? And I don't really know why. It's like, I have a very happy life. I have all the things that are required for one to be happy, but okay, I have endured some loss, and I'm really still going through that. Okay, I'm not gonna try to explain it any other way, and I don't want to talk about it all the time either, but it's like I'm trying to figure out what my problem was last week, and through that process of realizing how bad that podcast was, how bad my attitude was, that it got me to thinking enough to make this podcast. So one begot the other. So it's not a total waste, but what a strange thing to think about, to look in the mirror and to think to myself, I don't know if you guys ever do this, but, I think to myself, I'm at a place in my life where I'm married, my marriage is happy, my home is very nice and it's very happy, and I can have pretty much whatever I want, and I have the luxury of making music all day, and it's not for nothing, all of it. It's a good life. I guess that's my point. It's a good life. It's beyond good, okay? But after thinking about all this for a while, I came to the conclusion, and oh my gosh, it's like a cliche, right? But like, money can't buy you happiness, It's like, okay, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of things. It doesn't matter if you have enough money. I mean, money and things make life easier, okay? For sure. But they really don't bring you happiness. Like having stuff, having those things, it's not what makes people happy. It's what we think will make us happy, but it's not true. And what does make us happy? You know what? I don't know. Some people would say that, being like a self-actualized person, if you go by the idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all my needs are met. So that's not the problem. There's something more, and it's real, and I don't know what it is, and the only thing I can chalk it up to is that, like, there's a part of me that's died, and I never really had to experience that before. So maybe that's what this is. It's all part of the grieving process, right? So, I don't know. I don't even know at this point if it even matters that I talk about it, you know? Like, maybe my podcast should be like all bullshit and like me talking about pop culture, you know, or something, like how to tune your guitar and stupid shit like that. But it's like, I don't really want to do that. And it's just one of those things I think about, you know? I mean, I hear all the time, especially now, about how AI is going to take over, you know, and that, you know, it's possible that a lot of the content that I'm watching and commenting on in my podcast is not even real at all. I mean, that's like a reality right now. As weird and as shocking as that is, it's true. It's true. So, you know, and I also hear all the time that some of the comments that I get are from bots. You know, they're not even real people, you know, and I get comments all the time from different individuals, and I have no way of knowing if they're real, you know, and it's like, it's kind of a turnoff, you know. I used to kind of resent, like, when I would go to somebody's like YouTube channel or whatever they're doing, whatever they're putting out there, and I would go through their comment section and I would see that they didn't respond to any of the comments, and I would think to myself, well, that's kind of like an asshole move, you know. Like, if someone takes the time to comment on something you're putting out there, then respond. I mean, at the bare minimum, you know, respond to them and say thank you. But I'm starting to kind of get why they don't do that. And like, maybe I'm the sucker, you know? Like, I respond to pretty much every comment I get, with a few exceptions, but I pretty much do. I feel strongly about it. But I'm not sure anymore how many of these quote unquote people that are engaging with me are even real people, you know? And that kind of bothers me. That idea bothers me. Okay? Like, I can accept that the world is going the way that it's going, and that technology is going the way that it's going, and social media and content creation is going the way that it's going. But I'm not an AI robot, you know? I'm not fake. I'm a real person. And it kind of bothers me that I don't really know if I'm even talking to real people anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I have to ask myself that question. Now, it wouldn't stop or start anything from happening. You know, like, I make this podcast because I enjoy it and I want to, but I'm not 100% sure most of the time if it even matters that much. Like, I don't really know if I'm even being heard by real people all the time. I would imagine that there are some, okay? And there have always been some. And those are the names of people that I've interacted with for years, you know, now for almost 10 years. Like, they've been listening to the podcast since the very beginning. And the music too, you know, like, they listen and they're into it, you know, like I am. So we're all part of a little group, right? The pipe choir Mike Bostwick group, you know? But I find myself asking the question more and more, especially lately. Is any of it really, is it important? No. But it is important to me. So, like, that's why I do it. It's why I even started doing it. But I'm not saving any lives, you know, or I'm not changing lives, you know. I don't have any illusions about that. But I don't know. You see what happens when I start thinking, like, I have a bad podcast one day and it turns into all this, you know? like my brain just spirals. Like I start thinking about it all. And it's kind of like a perfect storm. I gotta be honest. I watch a lot of stuff about how AI is doing this and AI is doing that. And then, Trump gets elected and, it's just like, it's a fire hose of events and news and things that are happening, and AI is doing this and AI is doing that. It's like, it's just one of those things. There's all these people that are creating content, but, and it's interesting to me, but you have to ask yourself the question, at least I do, is this even a real channel with a real person? Or is this some AI bullshit? And there's going to have to be, I would imagine, in the future, there's going to have to be some way where we can all kind of differentiate or discern between what's real and what's fake. There just is going to have to be something. And, honestly, talking right now, I have to admit to myself, it's a fact that there's a possibility that this podcast is fake. Like, you have no way of verifying that this is really me. Unless you're sitting in the room with me while I'm doing it, and I'm looking around and I don't see anybody. So it's like, it's really kind of an act of faith, I guess, right? As stupid as that sounds, like you have to just believe that I'm a real person, right? And that I make this music or whatever, but, it's obvious to me that really anybody could be making a podcast that sounds like me and has the same kinds of characteristics, an AI generated voice that sounds like mine. I doubt that would ever happen. I can't imagine that anybody would care that much to do that, but it could happen, or like it could be the case right now, right? That's my point. So, I don't know. I'm kind of slowly getting turned off to this whole idea of like engaging with my audience anymore. Like I don't trust 100% that the people that are talking to me are real people. And that is so strange. It is so strange to think that way, but I don't know. I have to kind of ask myself that question, and I certainly am. And I don't know. There's a part of me that would be very disappointed with myself if I stopped engaging people and thanking people for commenting and all the nice things that people say. It's true. There's a lot of really nice things that people say to me, and I'm grateful for that. And but I just don't know anymore how important it is that I acknowledge them anymore. Is it a waste of my time? Am I making a fool of myself technically by talking to these people or these names that come up in my comment sections of all my songs and all the podcasts, all the stuff I've ever done? I get comments all the time. And I don't know, man. It's like, is it important to you that I thank you? Is it important to you that I treat you with dignity and talk to you like you're a person? I don't know. Are you even a real person? And like, oh, what a mess for us to be in, Now, does it mean I stopped making the podcast? No, that's ridiculous. But it makes me think about the whole thing a little bit. And like, maybe it's time for me to take that approach, where I put out the content, okay, and I don't engage people. Like I just put the content out and people can say what they want, and it's not important to them if I say thank you and if I acknowledge them, So, I don't know. It's on my mind. And, that awful podcast. It was just, Sometimes that happens. It happens, it's like every once in a while, maybe every year, I'll make a podcast that sucks. I mean, it sucks, and there's no way I'm going to release it. And I tried just as hard with that one as I am with this one. It's like it's all the same, but the colors are different, And I don't like this idea of my attitude or my personality changing so much where I'm becoming a little darker or a little negative or bitter and jaded and cynical, all the words. I don't want to be that guy. I just don't. I refuse to be like that. But sometimes I don't know. I really got to ask myself the question. So, my happy innovators, it's going to be a short podcast today. I don't really feel like doing too much more, and I have a lot of stuff that I'm working on right now that I want to get to, but at least this podcast didn't suck as much as that last one that you're never going to hear. This is awful. I don't know. So, my happy innovators, with that, if you want to keep what you've got to give it away. Take it easy, everybody. Okay, all you happy innovators that were kind enough and generous enough with your time to stick around to the end of the podcast for some music. And I got an interesting thing today that I want to share with you. A long time ago, I was in a band. I was the drummer in a band. I won't say the band's name because as far as I know, they're still active. Okay? But I was in this band. It was a very good band, and we recorded in a very good studio, and we had recorded 3 complete albums at this studio over the course of maybe 5 years. And the 3rd album that we recorded was never released because we broke up, and which is unfortunate because it's probably the best sound recording of my drumming that I've ever done, or ever will do, for that matter. And I found out about a week ago that the bass player from this band that I was in had passed away. He died. And he was my age. We were the same age. It was the only time I had been in a band with somebody that was my age. Every time I'd been in a band, it was always with older people, So, and this band toured, and we traveled, and we did a lot. We were on the cover of magazines, and we really were doing very well, and it was kind of an interesting experience for me to be in a band with somebody that was my age, and we had kind of come up together in the music scene that we were in, and I knew him, he knew me from the very, very beginning. He was in one band, I was in another, and we would do shows together, and I knew him. So when he joined this band that I was in, because I joined it before he did, it was kind of cool to see him again, and I remembered him and all that, and this is all this stuff I'm talking about is like 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like 25 years ago even. It's crazy to think that way, but it's true. And, I found out that he died, and I don't know how he died, but I know that he passed away. And, it really got me to thinking about all kinds of stuff, because to be honest, I hadn't thought about him in a long time. I mean, I guess he blows through my mind every once in a while, when I have a memory or something, but I never really cared enough to reach out to him or to see how he was doing. So, he's just been on my mind now, like thinking about it, remembering things. And of course I feel bad for him, he was my age, and that sucks. It's also the first time that somebody that I was in a band with previously had passed away. They died. So that's kind of weird too. I'm at a stage in my life where this whole mortality thing is really, it's something to be dealt with, It really is. So, in honor of him, my friend, who played bass guitar in this band, and he played bass guitar on this recording I'm about to share with you. This is a recording from the band that I was in that was never released. It was recorded in a very good studio. I mean, top shelf, everything. This is like probably the height of my drumming career, this album, because right after that I stopped drumming live. Right after this was recorded, because the album was never released because we had split up as a band. But the material that we recorded, the songs we did, the recording we did was great. It really was great. And it was a shame that it was never released to the public. So I have a CD of some songs from that session that we did. Actually, I have the complete album. And I'm not going to share the whole album, obviously, but I am going to share with you a rough recording of a song that we did called Blocks of Silence. And, it's just a snapshot of a moment in time, a sad photo. You know what I mean? It's too bad it was never released. Sounds great now, though. And it's cool. It's cool to listen to, I think. So here we go. Without further ado, the band that I will not mention the name of, a song called Blocks of Silence. And this is me drumming and my friend who recently passed away playing bass guitar on the song. So here we go. Check it out. Blocks of Silence. Peace out, everybody.
Existence with worms and the insects. I'm tasting my death on my tongue.